And I'm sorry that we're geeking out so much. I know this is not TV related that much, but considering that in a few years we may very well have an adaptation of in my opinion, the greatest video game series ever, it's incredibly exciting for me. And the prospects of it, man. I mean, I don't know else. What other emotion can you fucking feel right now, Miles?
Christian, I'll let you take the reins off of this last story here. So we were talking about Castlevania and how we cannot praise it enough. But it seems like the creators of Castlevania were getting into some talks about a Devil May Cry series and a Zelda series. What the hell's going on, man?
Yeah, man. So Adi Shankar, he's the guy who does Castlevania now. He's also responsible for some of the bootleg series that you've seen. So there's like been a bootleg Punisher thing. There's been a bootleg what's the other one he did? It was big. Judge Dredd. He did a Judge Dredd thing right after the last movie that came out, and they're all super well received. Right now, Castlevania, I think everyone's agreeing, is wonderful. It's proven the concept, and it's arguably, in my opinion, probably the best video game adaptation. I know it's a very low bar, but it's still an achievement. And with that, Devil May Cry is getting optioned. It's going to be a part of the bootleg series. And more importantly for me, all right, listen, because I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Devil May Cry. It's fine, Capcom, whatever. The Legend of Zelda, though, it's a lullaby to an entire generation, right? Like, it is probably the most important game that I've ever played in terms of a series. And yeah, even individual games within the series. And if they're going to make a game based on that, like I've rarely has a project made me more excited just on the premise. You know what I mean? I have not seen a trailer, haven't seen a writing team, nothing. Just the idea that this guy, who obviously understands the video game properties that he's adapting, is going to adapt that makes me incredibly excited. What do you think? Give me Devil May Cry and then give me Zelda impressions.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see what happened with Devil May Cry, because I really don't know much about it. So just kind of like Castlevania, where I know just enough of the story to kind of follow the thing that I'm super excited about. And how ironic, people, when we hear this story, it's the month. It's the 20th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So when you tell me to get excited about an animated a series or stories potentially on Netflix, and we're doing Zelda, dude, where do we jump down this rabbit hole of awesomeness?
What's the real question? Which is like, how do they even try to adapt it? Which game do they go with? The timeline's fucking weird and convoluted, and there's splits, and so that's the question. Where do you go? And I will say this to speak about its legacy. This is the 20th anniversary of Ocarina of Time, like you said. It certainly wasn't the first Zelda game I played, but it was the first game that I felt like that video games could be this epic, grandiose thing, man. Like, I felt that I understood destiny and shit because I played Ocarina of Time. There are a few moments in my life that I'll remember, quite like after you get the fucking sapphire from the water temple early on, and you're going back to the castle, and the drawbridge comes down, and it starts raining, and fucking Ganondorf's there, and all that shit. Princess Zelda rides off on horseback, throws the ocarina. Like, there are a few moments that, like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this shit right now, man. Like, it is a phenomenal fucking moment. And the whole series, the whole game series, each game has those moments, those little moments where you're literally like, I don't know about you, man. I'm 28 years old. Even the last one, Breath of the Wild, I had moments where I'm just like, fucking jaw fucking floored. It's incredible, man. And oh shit, you're playing the scene. This is like my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, brother? My bad. I didn't mean to geek out there. What do you think?
No. Let's geek the fuck out, because listen, man, I love video games as much as I love this TV show that we're doing. And man, it's kind of crazy to look back at it and to see a game like the Ocarina of Time turn 20 this year. But not only that, and maybe we're showing our age, and maybe we're showing some nostalgia things, but you have to keep in mind, dude, even today we have these conversations. What's one of the top best video games of all time? And maybe some people who are getting into video games now may not understand, but you and we can't even have that conversation without mentioning this game right here, the Ocarina of Time. I mean, a game for its product, a game for its time, a game that was so revolutionary in what it did. And Miyamoto just kind of changed the format for how we see not only open world games today, how we see 3D games, 3D games in general, and how things were molded onto the N64, right? Super Mario 64 did some cool stuff, but it wasn't until we saw, The Legend of Zelda, do some really cool things with their story, right? Hell, just even bringing fuck, I don't even know where to start. I mean, you can't talk about Zelda without talking about the open world of it all, right? And playing it for the first time with just something really breathtaking, because it seemed like a simple story enough, right? Where you're like, oh, you catch, spoiler people, right? If you haven't played this old game.
Well, no, hold on, because that's the fucking point, that it's the same story every single game, more or less, right? Call to action, you got to go help out Princess Zelda, you got to go fight some fucking monsters, you got to fight an evil guy. The story's the same, dude, but each time they fucking make you so emotionally invested that's the real achievement of it. Yeah, it is a simple story, and yet it's so much more than that. It's a grand fucking story. I'm sorry, I cut you off again, dude. Go ahead.
No. You're good. You're good. I mean, here's the thing people just seem to forget, right? And we take maybe advantage of, right? It's one of those things when people are like, should I watch Dragon Ball Z in 2018? For me, yeah. And for what I think it did to the platform, right, or the genre to the West, and how it kind of inspired even other popular manga out there, Naruto, One Piece, and all that stuff. The Legend of Zelda did with video games. Let's talk about the camera aspect of it all, right? You can't talk about Zelda when... with how they kind of just brought that to attention, right? Like, camera's a big deal in video games, especially when you play a third-person, game as massive as Ocarina of Time was at its time, right? Hell, dude, even something as obvious as Z targeting, right? How many video games do you play today where I need to track my enemy, so let's put the camera or the point on that so I still have a target directed towards who I'm facing, right? That was something that has never been brought into video games before, right? That's not even jumping into the epic scale of it all, right? For the first time when you play this game, Christian, I thought, here we go. We have to stop the Ganondorf. Here's our 3 spiritual stones. We get our sword, and then that's it, right? And then we face the boss. Nope. Your journey is just fucking beginning.
You don't even know what you're doing to me right now, because that scene in particular... That's the real scene, dude. When you take the sword out, you take the Master Sword out for the first time, and then you're not ready, right? So time has to jump. We fucking flash forward. Was it 10 years? Isn't that how much time passes? Or is it 8 years?
It's 7 years. 7 years. Yeah.
7 years. I'll never fucking forget this. I'll never, as long as I live, this is up there with any other piece of art, literature, movie, TV, comic, anything. This moment is up there with me. And it's just like the idea that you're right, like, go beyond the fact that it did kind of revolutionize how we look at gaming, camera angles, targeting functions, all of that stuff, just to be able to build this incredible feeling, right? Like, you're absorbed in that story. We talk about like BioShock, or we talk about Last of Us, the Uncharted series, right? For them making you feel so emotionally attached to it. But they have voice acting, they have motion capture actors. Like, there are people who are putting that in. This is such a work of art that this is just animators. This is animators with music. This is a silent game for the most part. No one speaks. And yet all of these moments are like goosebump inducing, fucking life affirming moments within a video game. How impressive is that? Like, in and of itself.
And I'm saying this as a Zelda fanboy, right? I mean, why play Ocarina of Time when you have Breath of the Wild, right? Like, how do you go to games like that and then kind of go back and be like, I don't get it, right? Like, if people don't understand the importance of fucking Pac-Man or Super Mario, and they're like, I don't get it. Why was this a big deal? It was a product of its time, and I think you can't have that conversation with The Legend of Zelda. And if you don't understand why Ocarina of Time was so great, it's just something. I don't want to say I feel bad for you, but dude, it was just so different.
You're right. I get what you're saying. Breath of the Wild, like, it was great, but in a lot of ways, it's not a pure Zelda game. If you've redefined what a Zelda game can be. But I think that we take that against Ocarina of Time specifically, because Ocarina of Time kind of redefined what a Zelda game could be at the time. You and I are both people who I think enjoy Majora's Mask more. Like, we like it. We think it's darker. But I think we both also realize it's impossible to have Majora's Mask without Ocarina of Time. Like, it did all the heavy lifting. It did all of the foundational work to get there. And so this brings me back to my main point, which is, where do they go if they're going to adapt this? Like, which story do they possibly start with? And I'm gonna turn it over to you first. What do you think?
Dude, I don't know. I'm looking at this clip right now from the boss, right? You see the reveal of Ganondorf in this forest temple, and you're thinking,
Right.
oh my God, here we go. Nope, it's just a phantom, you know? And now going back to answer your question, you know, as I'm nerding out about this stuff, I mean, I feel like the obvious and just probably thing people want the most is Ocarina of Time. I think you cannot, you know, I think they'd be a little crazy to not do that. Maybe, you know, oh God, why am I blanking out on Majora's Mask, right? Like that's my favorite. I would love to see that adapted first, but you know what? I think they have to test the waters first, and I think there's nothing more safe in terms of a TV show than Ocarina of Time, because there's just so much, man. I mean, even dude, I would love to see this scene animated right here. I mean, remember doing that in the Forest Temple, just fighting Ganondorf through those paintings,
Yeah,
and you're
having
like,
to spin on that fucking thing to make sure he's not coming out of the painting behind you and shit. Yeah. Man. I mean, so many little moments like that's what I'm saying. Like every single thing is great, but the problem is they have a muddled timeline.
yeah.
You know, and that's where it gets really confusing. I would say Ocarina of Time is your best bet. A Link to the Past is also a great one because they give you all the introductory exposition you need. And then probably Breath of the Wild, because it is very much like an exploration-based thing. If you're trying to make like an open-ended series where you can adapt for years, probably Breath of the Wild. But I think you're right, man. I think the appetite, and again, what really brought Zelda to this next level, it was always universally loved. Miyamoto was a fucking genius well before Ocarina of Time, but Ocarina of Time changed the fucking game, dude. Like, and I'm sorry that we're geeking out so much. I know this is not TV related that much, but considering that in a few years we may very well have an adaptation of in my opinion, the greatest video game series ever, it's incredibly exciting for me. And the prospects of it, man. I mean, I don't know else. What other emotion can you fucking feel right now, Miles? Explain to me.
Dude, too much. You know, it's funny. I'm going down this trip of memory lane and seeing all this stuff. And, you know, again, I want to talk more Ocarina of Time. It turned 20, man. I mean, fuck, dude. That's really cool. You know, it's really cool that we get to circle around and just kind of nerd out about our special moments with it and just seeing certain things reenacted. I mean, come on, man. I want to see if this thing becomes a TV show. Man, this motherfucking water temple, goddamn it.
This is what I think they're going to do. They're going to do like 6 seasons, and each season will be a temple, and then there will be 5 really good seasons and 1 incredibly shitty season. It'll be the water temple season. Yeah. Because, god damn it, that's the worst fucking level of the entire game, man.
Oh my God, no, it was really bad. But you know what? They introduced something really cool. And again, there's something in the water temple where you just kind of freak out. Well, for people who don't know, right, there's always like a mini boss and then the main boss, right? And there's something really cool. Although the water boss was kind of lame, the mini boss is the one that everyone seems to remember the most. And that battle with like Shadow Link for the first time and how it's presented. Do you remember how fucking awesome that was? Look, I know I don't have an entire silhouette of the room, but for people who don't know, that water temple, you go into this room, it's kind of like, I'm using Dragon Ball Z references, the hyperbolic time chamber, completely white. You just see some water, right? You keep on walking. You don't know what's happening. You turn around. You see your silhouette, or you think you do. You turn back around, and then you're like, what's happening? And then you face this guy. And man, that was one of the coolest scenes that this game did. And just kind of show like, okay, you want to see how much of a badass you are? Let's make you compete towards against yourself and see how you do. And man, I don't know. Again, people, I don't want to apologize anymore, Christian. I fucking love this game. I think this game did way too much for its time. And what games that we see today, Assassin's Creed Origins, right? Or Odyssey, any other open world game I can't think of right now, I think it's due part to Ocarina of Time and just kind of the mechanics that we get with it. Because let's be real. Of course, something like that would be done eventually, right? Of course, someone would change the camera. Of course, someone would do the Z targeting, right, with your enemies. But how simple was it at the time, right? Let's go back on this memory trip with Milez and Torres here, right? Riding Epona, just a simple thing. I don't know, press A to jump on the horse, press A to ride the horse, right? There's no other video games that did that. And you get this big open world with a game like Zelda, and I just love the hidden secrets all throughout that. So if I want to see that in a TV show, it's kind of hard where I don't know if people remember, there was like a 6-episode series of like the original Pokemon, but they actually called it like, this guy's red and this one's blue. And they kind of brought some like Easter eggs in the anime where they're like video game moments, right? Like, oh, going through this this cave to find Mewtwo, right? Like they animate that stuff, right? And they do even little hidden jokes that you knew if you played the game, that's what you were going to get. So something like Legend of Zelda, can they do something like that? Absolutely. Do I want them to do something like that? Sure. How's it going to resonate? I don't know, because this is something that you and I grew up with. How's someone watching this in 2018 if this becomes a TV series, become adapted? Or will it even be something that they'll enjoy, right?
I think those are all like really valid questions, but I think Adi Shankar has really proven that he knows what the hell he's doing. So I'm down for whatever he does, man. And again, it's like there are already purely cinematic moments in that game. I mean, the end of it, you're in the castle after everything's Hyrule's fallen apart. And then like you beat Ganondorf and they have to escape the castle, right? And that's all falling apart and there's like a sense of urgency to it. And you're like, hey, I beat the game. And then no, you have to fucking fight Ganon now. He's like a giant motherfucker. Like it's just like the game was already ahead of its time in terms of being a cinematic, beautiful story, let alone all the game mechanics of it. So I think, we're extra precious about it, but I think it does lend itself to be adapted, man.
Even if they touch this and this becomes a TV series, Christian, Miyamoto is going to be looking at everyone like a hawk. Zelda is his baby. Mario is his baby. Those are two things they will never fuck up. Probably Pokemon too, but Pokemon is a different league of its own and a different conversation for a different day. So I say this before we wrap this thing up. Is there any last things you want to mention with this?
No, man, just that we've said it a billion times that like this was really the game, the catalyst that kind of launched everything. I definitely played A Link to the Past first. I mean, it was something I remember playing with my brother. My brother's older than me. But Ocarina of Time was my Zelda. It was definitively mine. It was this really, really important piece of art to me. And if you've never played a game, get the fuck on it. Like you will not regret it. They will teach you lessons about life. I know that sounds fucking cheesy, but it's one of the most important works of art ever to me. So yeah, please go play it. That's my impassioned plea. Miles, what do you have as far as final words?
Play it, people. Please make this become a TV show. It's crazy. I'll say this and then we'll wrap things up. I think it's hard to suggest to people playing it today, right? I mean, how the hell do you play something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and then play Ocarina of Time and be like, I don't fucking get it? That's what I know people will say. That's not saying what I would say. I think people are wrong, right? But again, it's crazy when hell, dude, I hear lots of gaming outlets say, what's going to be the next Ocarina of Time? Because video games are just in a different state now, right? And some people and some games just tell stories and narrative over game than over actual gameplay itself, right? You look at something like The Last of Us, dude. I'm fine watching someone play The Last of Us instead of playing it, And then you have like the Telltale games, right? And kind of that narrative, right? And then you have these open world experiences like BioShock and Assassin's Creed, right? Where does Zelda stand? I'm not sure where Breath of the Wild will stand maybe 20 years from now. But I think when you talk about video game greats, you have to pay respect to this game, whether or not you like it. This game changed everything, how we see it today. And listen, yeah, you better goddamn play it. This game is really
here's
good.
My final word.
Yeah.
Here's my final word. Best believe that we'll be talking about this game in another 10 years. Like, the legacy of this game will not be soon forgotten. So, yeah, get the fuck out there. Play it.